Dynas tris hardi adi just a cut Johan ach tu ye gay ich satini ye khana ha yu khatangi ushkanach utu da art it takko ich tu ye gay ushkanach utu da art ni ha yu khatangi ya kanach dat ayat khatang knuch wasa aya Christ Dane aya Tlingit yu khatangi tu owa Aqa khwasaku ayanach yu khatangi atinach hayati yu khatangi aya wutuwa arch yu khatangi aya yu khatulaat aqa hatlaqi kunach lakuzi atawe hatlaqi tu khatundatani atuk aya kwash akhayuti aya ha shagun hasaya ye has technich hatlaqi qahatu wu ten ajawe Tlingit yu khatangi kunach hakuk yiktawe kul shedahiniat qutzati datwe achikuk tunach ayawe guk yik adi aqa chakawe Tlingit yu khatangi ayawe tuwa achch aqa just the cut at that away to a sagu yuk agach to la adi ya chadasa to a sagu adat the tani like pa yuk khatangitin Ch'shugu away Tlingit yu khatangitin achaway kasach tosh gutja shgun yu khatangi the cut yagi away hatu a sagu at to a shuku Ch'a ha shagun ach shagun dat yuch auditani Ch'a dasa we yis nik dasa we adat tisha diach twasagu utusukuwu khatqa yis at she Tlingit at she qadrecha at she tu yek الكدين خسكو وسكحت ساق أجد أتشي قف يا يكي تتكي أويسلتي قنخ يا جلت كتيوهان أتشوي يا يكي أختوس كلتكي نخ يا أخ يخسني يا ياخ ديو خواجود yach away a cut a ya khwa a qajis a dat khwatam charge the cut hakusti to khaya Tlingitani kunach yan kwat ya 2016 a yachawe yachtin the tani tin shitahin ya khuni qa akhani yan أخنقص تودكيد أقعدت أيتها ختم خناخوي أجري أختوسكو كالتجينخ تياق أوي جالت خدت أقا قلت تندتاني خيتي قلت بقاء ياونا تلقاتوا أشكو نيج ينقد شقاسك أيا أقاق وشي كايك تلقاتوا أشكتس أي كايك أجوي تلها جويا خوت يخيتي قاننا يدات أقا تلها أشكو خوت أيكدي يوزكي باوا أتسو قنا تلها أشكو أجوي قاق نوج تلها أشكو نيكدين أياها دات تلها أشكو قاقت ونيدي دات هدات أوي يا أوي تخمتم كيدات وي يا خوي شكو أياخو أخ كنشتاك أخ تيخيت تيو دكت ها واسوي كنشتاك واسوي أخ يدي أيادو إيخرتو إدات كقو أقني أتمشي دات يخسوي هسته أتشي Kanats A. Isikuge. Hellach, Edach. You're okay, you're okay. What? Dechwinets shuwichin, Aka Kanach Udakinsu, Ye Futter Atshi. Gwash Cajun winnets a kana, Cajun winnets a issue with heathen, a Huakshiachas Kodrigich, Dach a Kindajunit. Yeah, you away, Gwash Kastakena, Kosti, a Gachi Ach, has to Kodrigichi, a yeah. Gwash Julia, Uchja has to Kijidach, a yeah, has to town, to Nach. Aka get the ayah das way das aka has ausatin ja has put chakka way atas kwan way kach kuna hawe yake after was go shuwa aya ye away you khakach to the art Tlingit grammar dot shukwa chadasa kwashyata shukwa ye kana shwain we art ak yach Isikuge ye kana shwain we art ak yach ye kana shwain we art ak yach Kawe that uk kay kak ina heshwasa uk
Is that something is blooming or flowering?
Yek kana shwain Yek kana shwain tag ite shitehini at Yek kana shwain Idat kwash Kay kaya Khat Isikuge That's
cabbage.
Yeah, aware. Kunachawe Hosanik. Ya at Hoku, the Kunachaya Hosanik. Art Ak Yach. That's so Yach.
Alongside.
Yeah, aware. Tesh Hunt. Hunt. It Hunt. Yach. Yek Ekanas Queen. We Hat. Yach. Kaisikuge dasa yek ekanar queen so yidat dasa yek ekanar queen yida acht qone qone qoti tes yek ekanar queen yidat qush jinkatiki kach qush chekayiki kach ye qoti ye kagach dasa so ye yana kakubuch Ishq Gwash yeta chwasatin yayagi in che yek e kanarchwen yidatsu ha kanata e gahweni yek e kanarchwen achawe watusaku konacho e talk ite akakutan yad kutan aya ade kukwaha.
What's to do with stinging nettle? It's
Tuk atsu aka kone aya yatsu ke yana ein ke yana ein ke yakwa yana ein. Okay, Johan. Yatsu achtuasaku. What means away ways acht gach to hash. Crouton again. What means away ways acht gach to hash. Yak dat gwaltesh kedin chia acht such away. Good geens away ways acht gach to hash. Yisakuge? Now kuge gach. Ziyanaka?
Pretty soon. Ch'a.
Yake. Ziyagen, gwash yayagi, gwash sechanen, gwash talk iti kunachawe shatzin. Zacht away shatzin, kunachawe talk iti. Kutan heshwa satsu, chashtak. Chakwat ginsa now katinach yati, gwash guk, akoa, ach in kadunik. Talk iti. Yanach shatzin, zacht. Yituasakuke. Gwash Kaya nechichiawe yakakan. Ayach awe zacht katachashikawu aya aka yituasaku nadayihin yach. Gwash nadayihin akanach ayawe zacht at tshishatzin. Kanach awe kelchis gachi hash Ch'a zacht. Atuye ti shatzini at. Atuye ti shatzini at. Ayak kwaheko. Ade ayak agachi saat. Gunil chish. Zacht yegi has. Achawe. Ik kwahash. Hanaku yes. Wan kanin saya hada et aya kashultsin qahatuwu aya yanik wa aya gachtu khash. Okay, Johan. Nauk age gach yich an. Nauk age gach yich an.
Well, on is in, and yeshayech is like we will make it. Oh yeah, you will make it.
No. Medicine and a goat.
Ziyanaka?
Knock is medicine.
Yeah, aware. Nauk age kakisayech. Ch'a kakisayerke. Ch'a gach yisayerke. Yuhan gach yisayer. Nauk ake gach yisayer an. Zacht.
Ach, du was ik.
Yake gul cheese chatsu. Yisaku ge. Ade dadu neye. Wait, zacht. Yisaku ge. Ade dadu neye. Wait, zacht.
Do you know how they prepare it?
Ah, well. Yisaku ge. Wehwa ja Shatsini Tahatina Higeti Jindat. Yake Kuwakandugu Tenaka Tesh Dashikats Yedu Asago Atlekachinach Thorn Kashito Ashko it Dugaya Tak Achawe Yake Sach Shukwa Aka we Khasha. Which part? Dashakatske?
Thorn?
Dashakats. Yewe kakkoshakit. Dashakats. Yewe ada. Shakats. Shakats away we shita. Shakats away khashakach. Khawu.
What's the way now? Shikats.
Shakats. Verb. Shikats. Shikats away with shita. Yet two. Shikats one panins. Tlingit yu khatangi. Ch'a. Taputa. Ch'awu. Isikuke dasawe. Ch'awu. Wushtin shikats.
Chat, porcupine?
Khashakat. One panins chishuku kat. Hechosaku wanachsoe ako ayatatsu. Duktut. Kaduktut. One panins chishuku away where huji consonant. Dashakat aya. Naka shitatin. Gwash khasha. Gwash. Kakatayach. Khasha playing. Echasaku wasagach to saw pruning. I don't know what you call them. Like those big things where there's a small cutter and a big long handle. Aka awe. Grace 2 day. Hapisani. Ne stay away. Grace just young. You chakuksa aya. Aka shitatin. Stakat dashakats ituwasigu ka. Katritse wakakwe. Da'at kesituwa ashku. Wait. Agwat yacheti da'at. Stakat at adach. Stakat at adach ituwasigu. Yasu yacheti ko'a. Kunach ituwasigu. Wait. You just want that green bark. You don't want the brown bark, and you don't really want the stalk. Get away. Hey, Johan.
Is the other side supposed to get it for people? Is that the way?
Ja, Yagi.
Okay. Get away, Ch'a too. Gwashwe Ch'a aya kunach yanik. Aka dukani yan. Nak. Aka away. Haska kwatishi. Get away, Ch'a. Chakut. We knock. Knock away. Etina khayeti. Ikani yan aka kwatishi aka. Get away, haska kwatit. Haska kwate. Get away, Ch'a. Gwashwe Tsacht Ch'a. Gwashtik shastin. Ituasaku. Achwe tel. Wankanins Ch'a niku. Nak etinach yeti. Aka Tsacht Katsik shastin. Ch'alta kat yagi ituasaku. Ch'tagawe ayanach tletzini Ikani yan hasdujidach. Aka yechwaji Tsacht Katsik shastin. Ch'alta kat yagi ituasaku aka. Chakugei Gwash Kakati. Tak itige ade yakunaheni anikat. Tak itige ade yakunaheni anikat.
Ha, that's like the verb to arrive imperceivably. It changes to the ain with the n, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like spring. Talk, eating.
Mm-hmm. Tak itige ade yakunaheni anikat. Gwash Gwash like. Okay.
Daka. Kunach.
Okay. Tesh wuslet ich gwaswe on. Ja, kayat deko a katsebuch chatwutien kunach wuslet ich. Shekudzi away. Eichini wuslet ich at. Wut ich at. Akanach aya wutu a kuch karyik. Ha Shukwa aya akanach wa kuchwe. Eichini karyik. Wutusatin wa ku'u. A katchatse wakak. Snow machine asai kutzati. A katchatse wakak ko'a. Tichka yana kuchu. A ko'a. Una hasajivu. Dasa yeji has atlun.
Saw.
Wash yehwajitsu sa wash sa aka we katsubu we kawu aya kakmawus dasa has atlun sa ake yoka wash watse el dasa khosaku has de ani da shikutsi away ha hinta khudzi akaitige aska wan qadins just hoots cuts ik has to jiwka or has to dot yeti Dasa yi Ch'a tatgechana. Johan. Dasa yi Ch'a tatgechana.
Peter.
Okay, Hatsu.
Wasu.
Dasa.
Wasusli.
Oh, okay. Echo.
Ah,
Oh, okay. Yishik.
Also, there was a pie, like what pie?
Oh. Kishike. Tlingit kina kish. Okay. Echo.
Washka. Noodles?
Oh, okay. Echo. Newtons.
Noodles?
Yake away. Touch the cut Johan. Kudachach to asaku shukwa again. Tlingit yachitungi. What was the year? Aqa kakachtu aqa shirtidina ya wushuk akachtu sa'atikan chish. Any thoughts or questions before we move to the next thing? That was fun, that was successful. That was what I was hoping.
We were just talking about Sakht in our apprentice session today, and nobody could remember the word for thorns. So this was very timely.
Yay! It took me a long time to find it. I can't remember where I found it, but it was one of those things where, like, once I found it, and working with the elders is very. I mean, they know, like, the amount that they know compared to us. It's like saying, hey, look at my house next to the Empire State Building, right? Or look at my shed compared to, like, the Empire. It's just gigantic. It's enormous. But sometimes, if you're not using the language all the time, you find all these little things that are a little bit tricky. And there's, it's got to be words for them because people would get stabbed by them all the time. But that was one of those things that was, I just kept asking and asking. And then, but there's a lot of words where once you find it, like buried in notes or somebody remembers, and all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah. Satqayeka was one that was, I think, kind of like that as well as a adverb, which was like finally or at long last something had happened. Okay, Johan. Okay. Let's talk about time. If I can get my little chart straightened out. So I was thinking about concepts of Tlingit time. So I made these little pictures because I like to make pictures of things. It helps me to sort of visualize it and then figure out different ways to teach it and different ways to think about it. So I think we've got two concepts going. We've got big time, which is on the top, and then you've got smaller time, which is on the bottom. And these are very important concepts to understand in terms of communicating in Tlingit, being able to put things together, and you got to think conceptually in Tlingit so you can move linguistically into Tlingit. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of sort of thinking and understanding. So when we start with big time here on the top, there's these two signs that I think of, these arrows that move towards infinity in either direction. That's how I think about them, right? So we say this is moving towards time immemorial, and this is moving towards an eternal future. And this is how I think Tlingit conceptualizes things, right? And so you're always just one step away from gigantic time. And I think you've got to always remember that, because someone might be talking, and you got to remember the verbs don't particularly care about time. Time is not a factor when it comes to verbs, and this can be a really challenging concept. And the other things that are challenging concepts is when you're telling stories, the ways you use your pronouns and the ways you refer to time. Because sometimes when we tell stories in English, it's really important when things happen, and then on the third day, and then then the next day. And Tlingit does some of that, but it tends to do a lot less. And when you study the oratory, you figure out. And then when you study just the day-to-day stuff, you figure it out. So we'll start with this one here. Yesu. Yesu in Tlingit is now or still. Right? So if I were to use this in front of a verb, like I might say, Yesu chawdatan. He's still talking. Right? It's something you're saying it's happening right now. And you could say Ch'a Yesu, and that you would say just still, because you might say Ch'a Yesu sacht tin. Now, people are still making medicine with Devil's Club today, right? So Yesu is sort of a starting point to think of the now. And when you hear people use it, a lot of times they're using it as still. It's still going on. Not still as in be still, but still as in, what's another way to say that?
Continuous?
Continually, or even now, or something like that. So before Yesu, you have ashukat. Ashukat would be before something. And we're going to see this pop up all the time, this shukha. And shukha means in front of something. And so when you think of being in front of something, in English you would think, well, isn't that ahead of it? Like, shouldn't that be kind of the thing that happens next then? But Tlingit, because like if there was a boat going along in the water, and in front of that boat, a porpoise was swimming and jumping out of the water, which sometimes they do, you might say, Yak shukach we cheech, right? So that's in front of something. There's also sort of a way you could say it in Tlingit, like you might hear old-timers say they're trying to get ahead of us, and that is related to this, like it's not good to stand out in front of people. That's usually ways to say like they're trying to be bigger than they are, which is bigger than us. But in terms of time, it means before. So you'll see that here when we talk about how to talk about being on time and being early and being late. This is my realm over here, unfortunately, but gao yach. So this is the yach, which means appropriate or correctly, right? So there's a different yach for to be like something, right? Like I could say, and now maybe I'm saying that person is the same clan as you. Maybe I'm saying that person kind of looks like you, or maybe that person acts like you, right? But if I say you are incorrect, right? And so it gets a little tricky because there's a yach, which you would say really fast, which is correct. A yach with maybe a little bit of a space, that means like it. And then there's yach, which is rolling over, right? But this one, gao yach, on time, correctly, according to the time, is kind of how you would think of it. Gao shukat would be early. So now, maybe I'll zoom in. So gao shukat would be before, like let's say, hey, let's meet at 2. Gao shukataya chwagut. Right? But that's probably not the case. Right? But maybe it is. Like I get here early. Gao yach was time, gao it. So we're going to see these little directional things and how they play in terms of time. It. Das so it nach it.
Yeah.
Huh?
After?
After or following, right? I'm going to say, what is it? Okay, and then we also see the role that the suffixes play here. So you wouldn't say you have gao it with the which is sort of residing in a place, and this is used in time a lot. So I might say tau in the winter they go over there. Tauch, kash ache hasuti, gauch, katawak, pakuk. Right? They're not here in the winter, and so these are how you can start making more and more time references. This suffix is very powerful. It jumps on a whole bunch of stuff. We see shukut, and this suffix means more to sort of arrive. They both mean to be at, but is sort of residing, and the T is to arrive somewhere. Then we have chituk, which is always, right? So chituk is always. It's something that is, as far as time goes, whenever you say chituk, you should have some repetitive form of a verb after that, right? Unless you just want to say chituk away, and then you don't have to, but you really should be putting it into a repetitive form after that. So coming back to Yesu, if it's happening after, kind of got three options. There's actually a fourth one I didn't put in there. And the way that you're talking about things, it kind of depends on how you're tying these things together conceptually. So I could say adachawe, and that means after that, but kind of because of it as well. So it's more like from that. Dachawe, from that time. So it could be like, we learn how to make canoes. Dachawe yakuditleechnuch. We learn how to make canoes, and then people were always making canoes from that time. Itnach or itdach is sort of like a little bit more sequential. Like it was this, and then that, and then this. So like he went to get his hammer, itachawe, sheen, atatinach.
Maxwell Silver Hammer.
I'm thinking of I'm not being very good multilingual right now. But so like he went to get like in a Haida story. Chakaskatinach yati. Itachawe akakuwashi tik ha tak. So he went to get his seaweed, and after that he went to look for his hammer and a rope. Aqa'away is just sort of more generally and then this, and then that. So it's also, these are ways to make time jumps using Tlingit, or time connections, and they're slightly different, but they all do kind of the same thing. Say this thing happened, and then something happened after. Okay, so now we get to this sort of larger scale. Yidat. Yidat is the now, right? And so you could say Yidati day, up, coming to now, or Yidat dach, from this point forward. So you can use day and dach when talking about how time works in Tlingit as well. Yidat is just generally this time, and you can work as an adjective as well. So, for example, someone might say, Ch'ak, away, Ch'ak, we cake, Tlingit aya, ada away cake, Chishuku yakudzigeyi a, Keshe ayach aya, Yidat cately. Ch'ak away, which the cut cake, Tlingit yakutangi has ausakutsu, Tlingit yachaway has yakudzigeyi. So they say long time ago dogs were really smart, just like people. But that's not the case today. So ch'ak, and then as far as we start, it's easier to move backwards in time in Tlingit than to move forward. I think you've got ziyagan, and then like some point in the future, which you could go ch'akwatgin sa or ch'agutgin sa at some point in the future, whenever in the future. But it tends to get really sort of vague if you go beyond a day, right? Because you get seqan, and ch'kaych would be forever. But going backwards, you can
Either tomorrow or forever.
Yeah.
right? It's like tomorrow or
That's my problem.
And
That's
so
why I
this-
procrastinate.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, so maybe it's in your DNA. Because there's some things I still got to figure out, like how you say, next year we're going to go here for fish camp, and then I don't know. There's ways to say that, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Ziyak is, so Ziyagan is a little while from now. Ziyak is a little while past. It was a little while ago. Oops. Tatke should be right here. Would be yesterday. Tatke Khana. But I jumped right to Kliyatke. So Kliya is this thing that means like another, or the next one over, or something. So you got Kliyatke, the other day. Kliyatis, the other month. Kliyatak, the other year. Ch'a, long time ago. And for me, this is sort of like the last 100 years or so. And then Plak is before that too, forever. The Tlakupankians are ancient. So this is ancient, this is old, and then the rest is all fairly recent. So then we move down to the days and how the days work. So you think of how a day is divided. You've got Ch'a or Ch'a'che or Ch'chi, the dawn, the daybreak. It's Utat, up to Sitgausan, up to Chana. Chana is kind of seemingly up until when people generally stop doing stuff and kind of retire, and then you have Tat. Because there's times when it's been like 9 o'clock and I've said Tat and I've been corrected to Chana. And then you've got Tat Sitgausan, which is midnight, and the Sitgausan is noon and midnight, and those both probably come from some sort of post-contact concept. There was another way to say noon. It was like the sun shining on the. I can't remember. Seqan or seqanan is tomorrow. Seqan kliya'atiqin or akadin. Akadin, sorry. Seqanan kliya'akadin. I've never heard anybody say that. I think there are probably still speakers who do, but this is saying the next couple days. So I guess I got to put that one up here. Next couple days. Then we go back. We have Tatke is yesterday, and you can say Tatke, Tutat, Tatke Khana, or Nistat. Nistat is last night. Tatke Kaya'akat is like a few days ago. Kayatke is, or no, sorry. That's what this is. Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, and then we get into the other day and bigger sort of time. Okay, it's more complicated than that. Any questions on that?
Can you use the dach with the chukleich?
So like from forever?
Yeah. Or could you say chukleich day?
I don't. I've just heard chukech on its own, like forever. Like, it'll forever be this way, or let it forever be this way. Yeah. But there's ways. The day and dach tend to work better with more measurable chunks of time. Like chakak dach, I don't think you could say that. Right? Always, from always. Probably just wouldn't. Sort of like in English, I think if you tried it.
I was just thinking about building verbs, and when you build sentences and phrases and songs, or that formulate into speeches and songs and whatnot, the ones that really stand out are the ones that can last forever through time, and it's like emotion. So with verbs, the way I think about it in Tlingit is you should always be thinking like that. You should always be thinking about the words that you're building, because once they're said and people remember them, they'll remember throughout the time.
Yeah. So you might say the ones that you hear a lot are like Ch'a kudach, and so like from a long time ago, Ch'a kudach, hayu khatangi awe. Like from a long time ago, our language, and then you might give it some description, and then yeah, you might say in Titan. Away. So you might say, be careful how you talk. You don't want this. But the concept of forever when you're doing something in Tlingit is always kind of slippery because you could like offend somebody, and you could offend a whole clan, especially a long time ago when these things were more sort of rigid. But it could be fixed. So I don't think there are a lot of concepts that aren't in the forever category because like I could do something totally horrible, or my clan could. But once we did the appropriate thing and we negotiated and we fixed it, we kind of pretend that it never happened. And so it's even like a weirder sort of category. But Ch'a is one that I see linked to verbs in some repetitive process. Ch'a is more like the big forever concept. Like Tlingit. Let Tlingit exist forever.
They explain how this concept of time is different than like Ch'a. Where I see it being different is like in the perfective, this verb has been completed or whatever, eh? But this seems like almost just using this word for tomorrow, or what's the difference here that you're looking at?
Well, I'm just trying to lay out a framework for how time generally works. And I don't know if the differences are that big as far as in this timeline, except things are probably a little bit less finely sliced, perhaps. And then some of the other things is just saying after, or trying to link things through time. The other thing that you'll notice in the stories is like a lot of time might pass and they won't even tell you. Whereas like if you're telling stories in English, you might say, yeah, he was stuck on this island for like 3 months, and then so there are ways to do that. The one thing I would point out that might be a little bit different here is that Ch'a has a really special function sort of conceptually. So you could say Ch'a away, and now I'm putting us I'm setting the stage for when the story takes place. Long time ago, and then if it's like going back into pre-human time, I might say Ch'a away, Ch'a. So by repeating it and drawing the A's out and putting Ch before it, I'm sort of stretching how far back that time goes. And then I could say Ch'a gudach, and that means from long ago. And you could say Tliat gedach, Tat gedach, and you could do those things. And then you could say Saqanan day, or you could, I don't know if that one works as well. But when you say Ch'a guday, Ch'a guday means for a long time. So that's the case where you might say he held himself there for a long time. Ch'a guday. And they might even just say Ch'a in the middle of a story. Like let's say, and then he went up on the top of the house, Ch'a away, and then he was up there for a long time. So sometimes that Ch'a doesn't even need a suffix, and it can be used to indicate either a long time ago or a long amount of time passed since I'm telling you this thing, this other thing. But that's it. So the time stuff isn't that, I mean, you get the yach and it and shukat concepts, and then just sort of giving us a framework to start thinking about perfective verbs and then future verbs. Because when we get to verbs, we are not talking about time. So we talk about time just so we can sort of set the stage for it and say, here's how you take care of it using stories and telling people day-to-day stuff. But when you get into using the verbs, it's related to time, but time is not really an important information that's conveyed in the act of a verb. It's all about sort of the event. And there are this is why some verbs tend to be more event-based than others. And if they are an actual event verb, then like there's no progressive imperfective for it. So the progressive imperfective means that this thing is in the process of happening right now. Somebody's walking, a clock is moving, it's turning into spring, like spring is arriving. And then the motion verbs, especially, you should all have these progressive imperfectives, and then like knowing something. But then you could see that person is learning our language, and then you go from Yanasquin to Ausaku, right? So Ausaku. So what happens is it goes into this perfective mode to say the event has been accomplished, the verb has reached some state, maybe. But then Ausaku could be used to describe a present action, not a past action.
Fish.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's look at the perfective. This is what we've been spending our time doing, just to maybe get us warmed up. Let's say some of these perfective verbs so we could think about. Start getting the patterns sort of through our mouths, because I think sometimes we can look at these patterns and we start to get scrambled egg syndrome, perhaps, caught in the same net. But we'll do a few of these tables and we'll take a break and we'll come back and look at all of your many examples and start going through them. So starting here, we're looking at the zero group classifier, and then, is this the first table? Yeah, I guess so. Okay. So we're going to start by looking at, so we keep in mind, especially when it comes to the perfective, but just generally, you have the zero group and you have everything else. Because once you add sort of a hard consonant, although the 0 plus D is a little bit different. So the 0 minus D group, and then everything else, because everything else adds a consonant which changes the classifier. This front of the ya classifier is so soft that it tends to get absorbed sometimes, or sometimes it does sort of contract into this other form. So the difference here being between yi and then ye with the extra y in there. So I'll say them, you repeat them. What a.
What a.
Watuwat a.
Wutuwat a.
Yeet a.
Yeet a.
Yeet a.
Yeet a.
Awat a.
Awat a.
Hus awat a.
Us awat a.
Waduwat a.
Wuduwat a.
So here, I found it, we found it, you found it, y'all found it, he or she found it, they found it, it was found, or people found it, or not. Okay, so this is sewing, and this, so we see there's an object there which results in or awa, and then we see no object here which results in w. So it's there's no objects here, which is why it has a slightly different shape. Also, when you have a consonant in the classifier, you end up with hua instead of hua. You end up with ye instead of yi, right? So these are some kind of, so you say yisakuga, or you say yisakuga. So it gets really slight, the difference between second person singular and second person plural. So these are things that get a little tricky. Khwadaqa,
Khadaqa.
watudaqa,
Wutudaqa.
yidaqa,
Yidaqa.
yidaqa,
Yidaqa.
wudaqa,
Wudaqa.
haswadaqa,
Haswadaqa.
wuduwaqa.
Wuduwaqa.
So the other thing that you'll see with the zero group, the whole group plus D or minus D, whenever it goes fourth person, it has to be minus D, right? So we get deqa, 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 yaqa, right? So you say, because you never go dude or duda, never ever. Okay, so now we'll look at an S and a D plus S classifier. Again, so we're going to see the classifier emerging. So here you've got, if you look down at the middle, you got D, 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 D. But in front of that, you got hua, watu, ye, yi, wu, wu, wuda. Okay. Here you've got se, 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 se. When we get down to the fourth person, you're going to have z. Z, 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 all the way. So what this shows us is that there's a predictable pattern and there's two basic patterns we have to learn. If it's a ya classifier or if it's something else. And if it's something else and if it's a positive perfective, we should get si or z or shi or dli or shi or j or di or ya. Right, so we should
like any.
It's only, whatever. 8? Is that how many? 8? Yeah. Okay. But then what the goal here is learning more and more and more verbs. So you hit this sort of spot in Tlingit where a lot of people get stuck. And what it really takes at this point is listening, speaking, finding ways to talk about things that you want to talk about, getting better at interpreting the things that you hear, and then learning a bunch of new verbs and learning the structure of how to conjugate these verbs. Okay? So here we go. The other thing you'll notice, here we've got an invariable stem. So you're going to have a, all the way down. This one is a zero act verb. I have to check that. Ch'a, ch'a, ch'a. So this one's long and high. Most zero conjugation verbs are going to be short and high. So here you got short, high on both sides. Okay, so we'll do the S classifier first. Khwasa'at, watusa'at, yisa'at, yisa'at, awsa'at, has'awsa'at, wadudza'at. So these are all chilling things, making them cold. Agate khotzagit.
Agate khotzagit.
Agate butudzagit.
Agate butudzagit.
Agate yidzagit.
Agate yidzagit.
Agate yidzagit.
Agate yidzagit.
Agate wudzagit.
Agate wudzagit.
Agate haswudzagit.
Agate haswudzagit.
Agate wududzagit.
Agate wududzagit.
Okay, so somebody give me the English for these. Starting with the top.
I broke the law.
Yeah, okay, I broke the law. Next one down.
We broke the law.
Away. Oops. This doesn't let
Not
me
that
out.
one. I guess we're skipping.
You broke the law?
You broke the law. Okay, we'll go a little faster.
Y'all.
Y'all broke the law.
He or she broke the law?
She broke the law.
They broke the law.
They broke the law.
He broke the law?
The law was broken.
The law was broken, right? Something. Something went wrong. There's a lot of ways to
Is that
interpret
like
this fourth
if
person.
someone fished in your stream?
Right, so yeah, like a gate would do to get. Usually if you were going to say something like that, you would then follow with why everything fell to pieces, or how everything fell to pieces, right? So like, ya echt aya, ku'u hastu ina kawanik, kesh dasa aya, winada yihinadach, kesh ushke aya, kesh ushke aya, dustechi away, winada yihinadach. Ch'a away, Hus out zit na da yi na dach. A gate with the gate. A jawel the cut has count the gate. Yeah, well, cool. So like a shaman told them, don't fish out of this stream. And people fished out of that stream and something went wrong. That's why they all died. Right? So it's usually some big thing when they're saying a gate. And then it's such an interesting sort of concept in Tlingit because it could be shenanigans or it could be serious. Depends on the context. So we've got tle and gle. Satini cheese. No.
Just in that area. Like I was just gonna go to the vending machine.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, well, this last one, then we'll take our break. So we see the verb up here. These are na conjugation. So unless there's something kind of unusual going on, the perfective, so the zero we like short and high, the others tend to be long and low. So this could tell you if it's a zero conjugation or one of the other three. Okay. So we'll just go through this list and then we'll take our Chwasek oots. Watushik oots. Yeshik oots. Yeshik oots. Aushik oots. Hasaushik oots. Wutudlik oots. Chwatlik oo. Watudlik oo. Yidlik oo. Yidlik oo. Woodlik oo. Huswoodlik oo. Wutudlik oo. People vomited. Okay. Back in 8 minutes.
Others, other people.
Oh, you came. Tlingit je getangi se kuge. Je getangi je achtje.
Besides by those baby this.
Wait, okay. Oh, shak. Hey, na shak. 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 Gook. The cut at her question.
What do you say?
Thank you.
Huh?
Okay.
What you say?
Let you see.
Hey, halfway.
Eight. Okay. Is it good? Mm-hmm.
Just watching this one.
Huh?
Is this linguistics?
No, this is intermediate.
I didn't know it was like right here.
Yeah. And online. There's people online.
I was just looking at it. I'm subscribed to the page.
I want to go back.
Back. Put it back. Hot.
Dad, what's the garbage?
Are you? All right. Or is it H?
Please.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Key,
Uh-huh.
key, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Gushusumek.
Kashkasaka.
What are those, right?
Huh?
What are those?
This.
Shop.
Shaka, yeah.
Uh-huh.
There are times when he says stuff and I'm pretty sure he's trying to say something. He seems to be pretty good about English stuff to where you can hear it and then he'll switch into something where it definitely has a Tlingit-ish sound to it.
Okay. All right. And how when they so to get us through these tables a little bit quicker, and I see Kuwuk, you're getting booted off a little bit, so we'll hopefully keep you on. I would like you to take turns reading vertically through here. So, and we'll all take a look here. So, for example, it'll be Nawaya's turn, and he'll read all these hateful verbs going through. So this was hated. That's how we would sort of translate this. And the English and the Tlingit were different. So some of them you would translate as something that's happened or something that's happening now. But we keep in mind that the Perfective says this verb, we can look at it, whether or not it happened, and then we mark it by plus I if it has. Okay.
Chaka. Chashikon. Wutushikon. Yishikon. Yishikon. Aushikon. Hus Aushikon. Wudujikon.
Okay. Kuwuchi koha.
Why does it
Oh.
change from the shit to the j?
Somebody tell me why it changes from shit to j.
Because it would sound funny to say wudushit.
It would sound funny, but there's another
Because
reason.
it goes plus D if it's.
Oh.
Any non-zero classifier fourth person is plus D every single time. So it has to be dudje, dudle, dudze, but it cannot be dude. Never dude.
Wudude.
So dudje, dudle, dudze, any zero group fourth person, always minus D. So this is the thing that it's just a sort of big rule that overturns other rules. Okay, kuuchi itkoha.
Korjikuch. Wutujikuch. Yijikuch. Yijikuch. Aujikuch. Aujikuch. Wudujikuch.
Okay, sheesh. So this chart is again showing that even if we specify the verb or the object is still built into the verb. So if we used English rules, we would say ausitin. douche wusatin. But we don't use English rules. So if English used Tlingit rules, you would say, she saw it cat. Right? So the it would stay there every single time. So that's important to make sure that you're not throwing the object out. Yeah. Oh, now we're here. So you guys did these. I know you did them. And hold on, I gotta open two documents at the same time so I can look at the answers, but not show you guys the answers, okay? So hold on, bear with me for a second. Oops. This one will replace this one, and then this one slides over here. Put my eyes on. Is that special? Oops. Okay, so these are. Oops. All over the beginning? Okay, here we go. So we've got OS0, ach. So this is telling us a lot of information here. This is also a zero conjugation event verb. The next one, and it's to hear. And you don't really use this one to hear people, although you could. But the difference, what would you say, like, how would it change to say, I heard you? And why would it change?
Wouldn't it include Ch'a in there, or Ch'a?
It should include sa for voice, right? I heard your voice. But you could say ach, like I heard you rustling around over there. So I could hear you doing something, but if I hear you talking, you should switch it to a different verb. But other than the sa part, it actually conjugates all the same. And it's not the S classifier, it's the sa thematic prefix for a voice. Okay, so going to the awesome work that we've done, or maybe your best guess. Who wants to take a first shot at first person singular?
Okay.
Oh, I heard.
Go ahead.
I hear Ch'a, which is correct. Ch'a. So what we should know from that is that every single one of them will end with ach, short and high. Okay? So moving down, somebody else, first person plural.
Wutu ach.
Okay. Second person singular.
Yeah,
Okay. Second person plural.
ach.
Ach, okay.
Awa.
Third person singular.
Awa ach.
They heard it. Okay.
I think I get confused with the 1S, 2S, 1P things.
Oh, do you?
I think I get really confused when that happens.
Okay. Well, I can just say they. I'll give you what the translation would be then. It was heard.
Udua.
Okay. I picked berries. So we should have a zero. These are
Qua'in.
khwa. So yeah, Yanaka.
Ch'a.
Okay. Khwa in. So again, we have a short and high. Khwa in. We picked berries.
Utua in.
Okay. You picked berries.
Yeah, in.
In.
Okay. Y'all picked berries.
Ye. In.
He or she picked berries.
Awa in.
Okay. They picked berries.
Has our in.
Okay. Berries were picked.
Udua. In.
Okay.
Udua'in.
Okay. So that we see the theme. We're doing great predicting what the.
Just a okay.
Okay. Okay, so now we got two here, and even if we put a little bit of business in the pre-verb, it's in these examples, it's not really going to affect it. But these are D plus 0. So these are 0 group, they're plus D classifiers. We have a 0 act and a Ch'a event. So, I don't know what you guys figured out, but the 0 conjugation prefix, we short and high. Okay, so all of these should end with shuch, because we see shuch. And because this is Ch'a, it's a not 0 conjugation prefix, it will be long and low T. Okay? So, and
H.
so this H is showing us it's a fading stem, which is not going to necessarily affect us in the perfective, but it'll show us in other modes. So we'll come back to stem variation probably next Tuesday. We'll talk about that a little bit more. You just got to keep looking at that chart until it starts to sort of. It's like Tlingit. It's sort of like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like you wanted to learn how to play on a little drum, and I gave you this big old drum kit, and I made you learn all these different things at the same time. Okay, now do this with your left hand, that with your right hand, and then hit this thing with your elbow, and then push this with your nose. So, but we'll get to, for now, we're just sort of focusing on the 0 group, and then the everything else theory. In perfective, it should be short and high for zeros, long and low for others. Okay. For shooch, some people don't like this verb as taking a bath. Some people think this verb should only be used to say like soaking in the icy waters. But that's not everybody, so there might be something to explore there. But for now, we'll just use bathe, bathed. Or we'll say take a bath. I took a bath. Okay. I took a bath. Okay. We took a bath.
Ututashuch.
Okay. You took a bath.
Yiddish.
Y'all took a bath.
Yiddishuch.
He or she took a bath.
Woody.
Wuddishuch. So it would be audishuch if there was an object here. If there's no object, you can't say ow, because what the theme shows you is you cannot add what's not there, and you also cannot take out what is there. Okay.
And it's a 0 conjugation.
Yes.
Or D.
Well, that's getting into this telicity thing, which we'll talk about, which is why you have ella and ye, which is, so some verbs are also, and I don't think this is marked, which is also kind of interesting. There's two different concepts that we're talking about here. And so the stem, the stem, English is hard. The stem might, or the, I'm saying this all wrong. The prefix might take a different shape. So, for example, you would say ade wugut, or hit de wugut. You would say hit uwagut. And what's going on there is two things are happening in the motion verb. One is the conjugation prefix is changing. De is a na motion verb every time. T is a zero conjugation motion verb every time. And the other thing is you see this happening too, and so you might say awa, or you might say uwa in some cases. They could say has uwa sa. They named it. And so what the telic thing does, sort of like the verb can be an event, the verb could also be like this finish line type of thing. Did it make it to the finish line? And we call that telic. And then it did not make it to the finish line would be atelic. And so it's, again, yet another layer. Well, we reserve that for like Tlingit linguistics, 500,000, for now. It's an interesting thing to note, but in this case, you don't have it here. You don't have any instance of that going on. So would the shitch would be, you take a bath, they take a bath? Hus. Okay, hus would the shitch. People took a bath. Baths were taken.
Would do a should.
Would do a shitch, right? So it goes minus D. Even if the verb is plus D, zero group conjugation, or zero classifiers go minus D.
Because you don't want to say would do the.
Yeah, you never do that. Don't ever do that, don't ever do that. Don't do that. Has do that. Has do do. Okay. So now we're going to have a long and low stem. And we'll just say it. You could specify, and that doesn't matter. You just, really what you're saying is, I put it on, you put it on. Or you could say kudas. And then the kach, a lot of times you might have something before that. We're not going to worry about it now. I put it on.
Kachodeti.
We put it on.
Kach wutuditi.
Okay.
Kahutuditi.
Okay. You put it on.
Kach iditi. Kach.
Kahiditi.
Yiditi. So you gotta plus you is ye. Yidde, yidde, yidde. Yidde, yishe, yisse, yidze, yidle. Y'all put it on.
Kach yiditi.
He or she put it on.
Kach auditi.
They put it on.
Asaudati.
Kachasad. It was put on.
Kach wuduati.
Kach would do with be. Wuke chap, and it's cheese. Any questions? Everybody doing okay? Okay, so now we'll look at a couple of S classifiers. We have a 0, but we have a fading stem. And so this one is going to be long and high. We also have an invariable stem, so this one will always be long and high. So you're going to have ku and ni. Those are the stems. We'll just give them to you. I know. Hwaseku. We know.
Wasaku.
Sheesh. We know.
Tusaku.
Watusaku. You know.
Yisaku.
Y'all know.
Yes, cool.
He or she knows.
Ausaku.
They know.
Ausaku.
Hey, they know. Do they know?
Ashas awaska.
Heshtasahas awaska. They don't know anything. Has ausaku. It is known.
Hududziku.
Okay, wudutsiku. Yake. So the O is going to, okay. In this one, the object is going to be it. Okay. And we have a causative type of verb. I made it sick.
Khosanik.
We made it sick. We sickened it.
Utusinik.
Watusanik.
Finish cheese, you made it sick.
Yesenik.
Y'all made it sick.
Yesanik.
He or she made it sick.
Ausinik.
They made it
Ausanik.
sick. Hey, they made it sick.
Has Ausaku.
Hey.
Has Ausanik.
How would we translate the fourth person? It was sickened.
It's sick.
It was sickened, I think.
Ududzanik.
Wududzinik. Okay, how about this? I'm telling you a story, and I was visiting my nephew, and he had a cold, and he gave me his cold.
Khatwisinik.
Chatwusinik. Okay, so because there's the object pronoun changes from the A, it's a third person, to the first person, it's not ausinik, it goes to wusinik. Chatwusinik. Gnichish. Okay, so now we've got some S plus D versions, and we are going to have qah, long and high, and nik, short. And there's two. You could say, whoops. Well, let's just come back to it later. Let's just get the verb forms, and then I'll come back to this weird explanation. Okay. I cried for it.
Whatsaga.
Whatsaga.
Okay. We cried for it.
وتتزقاق.
You cried for it.
Yisikach.
Y'all cried for it.
Yisikach.
He or she cried for it.
Audzikach.
They cried for it.
Has
Oh, sorry, Joe.
Hasautzekach. It was cried for.
Wududzikach.
Okay. Okay. I smelled it. Or I sniffed it. I sniffed for it. How's that?
Quadzinich.
We sniffed for it.
That's a funny image. وتتزنخ.
Wutudzinich.
وتتزنخ.
You smelled for it.
Itzinik.
Y'all smelled for it.
Yizinich.
He or she smelled for it.
Outzinich.
They smelled for it.
Has أوتزنخ.
Okay. It was smelled for.
Itzinik.
Wutudzinich. Okay. So my theory, and I gotta test this theory. I don't know when I'll be able to do it, because you could say chwatzinich and you could say chwadzinich.
Oh.
I think that chwatzinich would be like I smell eggs, but chwadzinich would be like I was smelling for it. But I don't know. I don't know why there would. It's not clear in the notes. It's not clear in the sources that I have right now. But I'll try and work it out with some speakers. And this stuff gets pretty fun when you get like sort of language theories, and some people don't like you taking guesses, but I think you have to take guesses because there's so much stuff to unpack conceptually and grammatically and pattern-wise. Sometimes it's good to do that.
وتتزنخ.
What did Zinich? You might say, Ha! Kadainaya! Kasagi Kanju did Zinich. Wait, careful! They're smelling for marijuana over there. Right? I don't know. Maybe you got friends who do things. I was telling a story about, I think I told it in Tlingit, because last time I was in, not the last time, but last summer I think I was leaving Yakutat. And some guy showed up, and in Yakutat at the airport, there's like the Alaska Airlines people, and then directly behind them, because it's a very small airport, is the TSA people, and then usually for every flight, there's a police officer there. And this guy comes up and he says, is it okay that I have marijuana in my bag? And the Alaska Airlines person says, what? And then he's like, is it okay if I have marijuana in my bag? And the TSA guy goes, what? And he goes, is it okay that I have marijuana in my bag? And the cop goes, what? So it was really neat because like they all said what, but they all said it so differently. Like it was like surprise, and then increased surprise, and then like what the hell? And then it was I saw this whole thing, and I learned
the
about
answer's no.
legalities. Yeah.
Because it's federal.
Because they said up in the air, that's federal law applies up there. And then it was funny. They just really grilled the guy. But he was flying to Texas, where it's a felony. So it was interesting.
So why
What the heck?
But everybody was really nice. It was really super awkward. But they just said, go out that door and come back without it. Okay.
Call again? Okay.
Zero conjugation, nothing unusual. These will both be short and hot. The first one is to play a musical instrument. The second one is to make something dirty. Not to be dirty, but to make something dirty. Okay. So we're talking about a guitar or something. I played it. We played it. You played it.
Ich liach.
Y'all played it. It was played. Or he or she played it, sorry.
Auch liach.
They played it.
Has auch liach.
It was played.
Liach.
I dirtied it. We dirtied it. You dirtied it.
Ich.
It's the Ch'a.
Y'all dirtied it.
Ich liach.
He or she dirtied it.
Auch liach.
They dirtied it. It was dirtied. Okay. Goodness, cheesh. Okay, so note the absence of the object. This is plus D. We're going to get saw, long and high. We're going to get cut, short and high. I rested. We rested. You rested.
Yitli saw.
Y'all rested.
Yitli
He or she rested.
Wutli saw.
They rested. So
That's what you saw.
what did they saw? Okay. So there's different ways to translate this next one. To quieten, I think is maybe how it is in some areas. But I'm just gonna go with what I think. Oops, I gotta put my root marker there. I would go with. How would you translate this? Let's use the he or she version.
Wutli cut.
Well, I mean the translation. We're just going for the translation right now.
Kept quiet. Yeah, quick.
Yeah, so quieted, but you know, if you were to say the command form of this, sheet cut, Your kind of the English equivalent is shut up, right? So let's say, I shut up. I shut it up. I don't know how. And then I shut up. Okay. How about I shut up? We'll go with that. And remember, if in the theme, if you've got this, the reflexive pronoun built into it, so reflexive object pronoun, it has to be there.
Schwatlekat.
Schwatlekat. We shut up.
Schwatlekat.
Okay. You had shut up.
Tlingit.
Shitlekat. You all had shut up.
Schwatlekat.
Okay. He or she shut up.
Schwudlikat.
They shut up.
Was schwatlekat.
People had shut up. Awkward translation. And then people had shut up. Schwa. A. Tu yek a keshi kakati. Ach tu yek a keshi kati. I'm happy y'all didn't shut up. Okay, we'll do one more set, and this gets us through, I think, all of the non-thematic prefix ones. And I'll just say there's not very many SH group, and there's very few plus D SH. So it was hard to find. I could have probably used this one, which is for something to clutch, but I don't know if things other than octopus could use that verb. If I get it confirmed, I'm definitely changing this one. And I should have let you know that because it's a motion verb, if it pluralizes, it will change, and it'll do so in a really weird way. So I will give you the plural versions when we get to the motion verb. But you should certainly know how to know. And so the difference between knowing...
No.
it's really hard to talk trash and use these things without giving you the answers. Because I could say you should blank, he or she knows how to do. And we'll come back and talk about this one, the difference between this and who, okay? So I'm going to translate as it knows how to do it, okay? I know how to do it. We all know how, we know how to do it.
Utushiguk.
You know how to do it.
Yishiguk.
Y'all know how to do it.
Yishaguk.
He or she knows how to do it.
Aushiguk.
They know how to do it. It's people know how to do it. Sorry, I got stuck.
It's known how to do.
Right? It is known how to do it.
I think this is one new one.
Udujiguk.
Wudujaguk. Okay, wudujaguk. So the difference, chwashaguk and chwasaku. Chwasaku is sort of like, I know that information. I know it. I've learned it. Chwashaguk would be like, I know how to do that. I know how to put that together. So it's a little bit more sort of a skill as opposed to information. But there are some people who said, oh, he said, ituwasagu hayuchatangi chishigugu. You want to know how to put our language together. And he used hwashaguk or yishaguk, I think. And so yisaku there's just a slight difference between them. Sometimes people think of this as sort of mastering some kind of skill as well. So that's generally how it's used. So, okay, so the next one, these are both long and high. We'll talk about these stem variations a little bit more, probably next week. We'll line up a sub for Thursday. I'll be out of town.
Me too.
I jumped. Oh, I jumped around. Sorry.
Yeah, so what are you,
Oh, so it's
what
going to
about
be
the
ut.
T? Yeah.
Ut is what it's going to be. Sorry. So yeah, nakakuch. Okay. You jumped around there. Or you just jumped around.
At it came.
He or she jumped around.
Cane.
Okay. So the plural version of this is a little strange. It's going to go ut, object pronoun, kauduakain. So if it's ut, object, kauduakain, we jumped around.
At with came.
So yeah, Anaka?
At how do a cane? No,
At
do a cane.
Chanach awayak a kaisehu. Y'all jumped around.
At ye do a cane.
Chanach a. They jumped around.
At has do a cane.
Ye awe. Yak echa chanach chattekat yuhan. Okay, any closing thoughts? We got through our list of perfectives without thematic prefixes. The thematic prefixes change things a little bit, but they still stay in this realm of predictable. Next week we will talk about how stem variation works in perfectives and how we can learn to be good guessers at that. But if I gave you any verb and you saw the perfective form, you should be able to conjugate that. The other thing we're going to work on next week is changing the object and changing the subject in some of these perfective verbs. So you could say like eusaku, eutusaku, yichwasaku, things like that. Haswatutsaku, or whoosh, whooshwatutsaku. Anyways, anything before we go? Okay, sheesh. I expect more emails at some point. If you have found any, what type of sayayit? A khan kananik adat. Sheesh, which ayah? Sheesh.
Sheesh.